Hi, everyone. It's Dr. T, and today I wanted to check in and help all of you understand what to do with your grief. So, yesterday I was in an interview with the Huffington Post all about the new way that people are having to grieve now, and we were in a discussion all about grief. And the thing to understand is that grief is a process and it's a transitional experience. And so now, as things are different and there's all of these layers of grief about all the things that are changing at a really fast pace, and there's grief about all the people's lives that are being lost, and that's happening for those of us who are doing okay and our families are doing it okay, and we're seeing this happen to other families. And this is also happening to families who their loved ones uh, are dying, and they're not able to go through the traditional process, which is a transitional process. So, in looking at the stuff that's going on with grief, the way grief used to be if somebody was dying is that there was much more of an opportunity to go through a transitional adjustment experience, right? Well, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, when somebody is sick or on the way to passing, there is an adjustment period, and people are able to uh, navigate that transition in an intentional, strategic way. They had that opportunity to do that. And that includes going from, the awareness that somebody's life would be ending, and all the way through normalizing a new life experience in a new reality. And that process includes lots of steps. In the traditional way we've all been able to experience it, it's had a lot more steps in the transition where there's an awareness. Somebody could be with somebody when they were passing away. There could be resolution type of conversations, and as people say, closure, which really just means people being able to be intentional and express the things that they want to and the real things that they feel about each other. So we're in a new, era now where, in order to protect our whole society and to protect ourselves, things are different, and people are going through processes where they're transitioning from this world and passing away on their own in the company of healthcare workers and not with their families. And with all of this comes just so many layers of grief on top of grief, that one of the most important things for people to understand is it is a transitional experience, right? What challenges people is when they feel like this is the destination and this is what things are, and when things are super shocking and amplified and changing in such an accelerated way, all of that brings about a lot of difficult emotions, a lot of reactivity. And again, in the traditional process, somebody could go through steps and go through a funeral process and have people surrounding them and supporting them and giving them emotional strength, and helping them in the transition, whether it's the person passing away or the people that are going through that process. And when something is not able to happen with all of the transitional steps, then one of the most important things that we can all do for ourselves, for those that we care about, for those that we're seeing these terrible things happen to, and for everyone that's just feeling the grief of our society changing in this very rapid way, is to point ourselves to a future that we desire, and to put our attention and to really give our attention to what we want. What do we want to change? What do we want to be different? How do we want it to be? Because when you point yourself to the future, even if it's a future 10 minutes from now, um, That's a lot different than just staying in a reactive state and believing that it's permanent, which it never is. And when you look toward the future, whether it's a few steps ahead or whether you can go ahead and give yourself permission to see down the road, a year from now, 2 years from now, what you're wanting and what you'll be doing, that starts to take you through a transition, and you can actually evolve in the experience through it without getting stuck in it, which is what happens to so many people, well before the virus. It happens to people in, just having negative experiences in their past and then reliving that and getting stuck there. And even when new experiences are fresh and new and inviting, people can still be in that reactive process and not be pointing themselves toward the future and evolving into the future, or even being in the actual future that's happening. So, with all of this grief and the fact that we're not doing the traditional things like funerals and gathering together and supporting each other in the normal ways that are a part of our cultural adjustment process to things changing or tragedies happening or people passing, it's time for us to elevate our emotional capacity so that we can point ourselves toward the future and begin evolving toward that. Begin recognizing that we're in a transition, and whether it's the larger transition we're in, whether it's a transition with a family member that's passed, or a friend whose family member has passed, or just seeing our fellow Americans and our fellow global citizens passing away and being aware of that. There's a certain amount of awareness of that that is helpful to just understand the context of the present moment. And given the fact that the future is always happening, right here, I just said it, and now the future's happening and it's happening. The most important thing is to recognize, again, you're in a transition, to point yourself to the future, to connect to the future that you will be having, and to recognize also that you're creating that by giving some of your attention to that and making that connection with your future life. So for all of you that are experiencing so much grief, continue, or I invite you to use the word transition. And I invite you to lead yourself through this transition. And I invite you to connect with others. And as you're seeing them and recognizing their struggle, to really infuse this concept of the transitional process that we're all in, that is on the way to an amazing, better experience in the future that we all know will be happening. Because the thing about human beings is that when they decide to create their future, and especially out of something really difficult, it's really powerful, all of our ability to create. And when we all harness our focus toward what we want to create in the future, then that's already in process right now. It's already on the way. And we can already start to look forward to it and start to feel what it's going to be like when everything is even better than it was before. All right, everyone. So thanks for, tuning in and implementing some of these emotional concepts into your life. This is the kind of emotional training that we do for our clients, helping people have an elevated emotional capacity so that they can move through life in the most functional and productive way, the most effective way. And if you'd like to learn more about emotional training, you can go to my website. That's right there on the post here at drtracyinc.com. And I'll see you tomorrow and check in with some other emotional tips. All right, everyone. Take care.